nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.
Well, the thing about this show is season 1 is about how does one become a hero. I know that because of the comic book, everyone's thinking hero for hire. But what we wanted to do with season 1 is you have somebody that's reluctant to even be a hero. What pulls somebody out of the shadows? And once they're out of the shadows, what are they going to sacrifice? And even in sacrificing that thing, what's going to keep them pushing forward? And so Luke Cage is the character that's dealt with a lot of tragedy. But there has to be an optimism. It has to be something that propels them forward. And so that's really the thing that we feel is like, I hate to say the Marvel cliche, but it's true. With great powers comes great responsibility. One thing that Jeff Loeb always said is that Marvel heroes are reluctant from the standpoint of they're not happy to have the powers. I mean, Matt Murdock would much rather see and have his dad in his life. You know, Jessica, as we know from her series, is very ambivalent about being a superhero. And Luke is no different. And so this is really about how somebody without a mask and without a costume is pushing forward in the community that really needs it.
Yeah. Try to get on a subway and be left alone. Get uptown, you know. Just do the normal things that people do. You know, stop in restaurants, have a meal. You know, he doesn't want all the attention that comes with being a superhero, which is a part of the series. It's really part of the experience that we have. And that's part of the story. It's like, you know, once he does step out of the shadows and he takes a hold of the superhero, you know, position, then what does that mean for his life? You know. So it comes with positives, but there's some negatives too.
I have a question for Mike. Luke Cage is such a prolific character, and I understand that you read the comics. I'm curious to know which runs did you read, whether it was the 70s runs or the 90s runs or what the current run is, and is this version of Cage mostly drawn from the comics, or were there more creative liberties taken?
Well, I have to correct you. I did not read the comics growing up. This is after I got the role, I started looking at the more recent incarnations of the comic. The one, obviously, with Alias, because that's the first thing we tackled with Jessica, that character. How he and Jessica's story was developed, because that wasn't in the blaxploitation 70s, that wasn't there, so this is all like kind of new, and how Empower Man looked at some of those comics. So for me, what was relevant was the fact that we didn't have to adhere to all of the history of Luke Cage, because it's only applicable to a certain point. We're talking about 2016, so what Chael was able to do, because we had sort of been given, or he had been given the reign to create a world using the characters that already pre-existed, and then, you know, fleshing them out, you know, expanding on them, making it work the way he thought it should work to create a story that we were trying to tell that was of 2016. So this is a Luke Cage that has been reinvented in a sense, and that was what excited me, because I didn't want to be, you know, pigeonholed to what was established throughout the 70s and later on, because it just wasn't necessarily something that spoke to me, and nor I think would speak to the society that we live in today. So because the problems we're dealing with right now are real problems, and so I felt like it would be necessary to have a guy who was dealing with the world from a real standpoint of like, I need to figure out how I'm going to get from one day to the next, and what my struggle is. And in having that struggle, he's dealing with people in society and in the community that have similar struggles that he has. That's what makes him relatable. You know, yeah, he's fallen hard times for reasons not of his own making. Where he needs a job, he needs to figure out how to like make ends meet. But he's a good guy, strong character, wants to do right, wants a chance to do well, but he has to kind of like get over his past, and people have to allow him to get over his past. He's avoiding some things, but ultimately he's a good apple. He's a good nut, and so we're trying to figure out how to make this guy grow into this. I always say it's a journey of a man and a superhero, and simultaneously as he grows, he finds out who he is, and sometimes he needs other people to help him find out who he is. There's characters that we deal with that you're going to find that when he comes into contact, they know more about him as a person because they've observed him, and he's going to learn from that, and him learning from that, he's going to start teaching other people about themselves. It's kind of like holding a mirror to yourself, because he wants to create superheroes out of everybody. He's not trying to be the superhero for Harlem. He's trying to get Harlem as a society and as individuals to start standing up and doing things the right way, and then that's how you change the community, one person at a time.